Okay, so first things, we will get a look at the small content change. So first of all, I have to go to the system preferences, and you will see that here we have different categories and we have a small kits preferences. So for the game content options, everything that I'm setting in hard on the code is stored here, okay? So there's animation properties, there's update stats and properties, preset browser, etc, etc, copy paste properties and stuff. You can change everything here, it's up to you. But in my case, this is the way I work, especially for doing things for Unity and other platform. So this is the way I worked. It's up to you to change those, but usually the kit is using those as a base on the workflow. So it's all regrouped there, no more looking at the config file and checking the different things that have been changed over time. So it's much more simple. Okay, so about the game content, we have also some new things on the pie menu. So when you press Ctrl Q, you will get the usual organization with the different menus here, and under especially the export tools, you have a cleanup FBX command that is stored here. I will open this, and this is one part of the small cleanup kit. So I will open a scene and get back to you. Okay, so here I'm under my kit folder, SMONSTER demo scene, and under small cleanup you have this file that you can open. It's one file that I've took from FBX files, exported from 3ds Max. So usually when you export stuff like this from a different application, sometimes you want to clean up and process some cleaning things on those to work better with the workflow in Modo. So here I have this object that is coming from 3ds Max. So here I have just only one scene opened. I have still the empty mesh, the camera and direct light that is always created by default, and the electrocardiograph object here that is loaded with a texture group, and that's all. So he got some positioning, position transform, and also, and more importantly, there's some pre-rotation because it was exported from 3ds Max, so you will got the rotation X with a value here as a pre-rotation. So there's no rotation here, okay, but there is a channel, a new transform item that have been created on when you export the file. So I have something to clean this up, and also there's some channel that have been created also by Max and that are stored here. So I didn't use those, so I will also clean them up. So another one here, you see that we have the FBX normal. It's correct. I've imported the file, the FBX file from Max with this, and so that's normal. That's perfectly normal. And here I'm using there is a texture UV map. A UV map with the name UV channel 1 because that's the base function in Max. So what I can do directly with those icons, I can just click and delete the cameras, delete the lights, I can delete the empty mesh. So this is kind of things that you can also use sometimes on other scene, okay? But this is especially for this one. And I can delete the FBX 3ds Max channels. So as I told you before, here under the channels properties, I will select back the object. There is some user channel that have been created. I can delete those also. So I didn't need to select anything. it will pass through all the objects and delete those specific channels. Also, you may have some parenting system here. I will unparent and in place all the meshes, so the position map didn't change. And also I will rename the UV map to use the Modo default name. So in my case, in my preferences, you see that under this section you have the name of the texture map. It's the same as here, okay, perfectly the same. And so I'm using 00_ texture, so I will change also for this one. So I will click here, and I got now a UV map that didn't change, just renamed accordingly to my needs. So also the materials were exported from Max, so there is some things that are not set. Here I'm under my base material, that is usually this. With these settings, I will dig into this later on, because I have a specific demo default scene that I'm loading. But on the other elements, you see that you have, for instance, some values that are not good. So for instance, the transparent amount is set, the luminous intensity is set sometimes with a wrong value. So to get this all sorted, you just have to update the materials. And now, for instance, all the smoothing angle have been set. I will just go back to show you. Okay, another time. Okay, so here we have a smoothing angle of 40 degrees, and we have no settings here on the weighted normal setup. So as I click here on update materials, it will pass through all the materials, and if I select them back, you see that I have the same setting as my base material with the weighted normal. So that's it for this, and you can also convert all meshes to hard edge workflow. So this is one thing. Actually, you have an object that is using FBX normals. Okay, so it's already stored as a raw data into this map. So if you want to change the shading, you can go to the modeling, vertex normal tools, and you have this pop-up menu from the game tab where you can set the different stuff. But here, for instance, I have just one mesh, but even if I have multiple of those, I can convert all of those, so all the normals vertex normal maps, to a workflow that is just controlled by hard edge and soft edge workflow. So I will just click here, and I have also another options where I can set all the edges to soften. It's up to you. In my case, I didn't want it, but it's available if you want. So I will again show the modeling tab, vertex normal tools, and if I select now the edges, you see that accordingly on the vertex normal map that was imported from Max, it's set. It followed the same principle. So you see you have some cuts here. I mean, not so cuts, but just hardened edge here. So if I go back in the history, you see that here, if I hide the wireframe, you see you have clearly hard edges set on this mesh. So when I do this, convert all meshes to hard edge workflow, I lost the FBX normal map, but I have now all the hard edge setup. Okay, so you can change and update some part of the mesh if you prefer. So for instance, here I will click here, and now I set the area here with soften edges set. So that's it for this. And also we have the channels on the pre-rotation, so it's still set. Okay, so if I look at I will show the centers. Okay, so we have the center here. I will hide the work plane. So we have this orientation, right? Actually, and this is set from the position here. But if I want to remove this pre-rotation transform item, I just have to click here, and I will remove the pre-rotation transform. So anytime you are getting files from a different application, so for instance 3ds Max, now I'm getting the correct value that is merged here. So I have just only one rotation here, and if I want also, I can also freeze remove all the pre-rotation and also freeze the rotation. So now I'm just clean up with this mesh. So those are separate commands, okay, but this one is launching the same function on all of those, okay, except the soften all edge. It just works as another edge workflow change, okay, and it will probably freeze the setup. So I will go back and close the scene or revert the scene. I will open it back. Sorry. I'm back with the file. So now I can just click here. It takes some time to process. And now I have just the object with freezed transform, no pre-rotations. I can go back to the user channel. I have no user channel from 3ds Max. I can go back to the materials. The materials are all set accordingly to my workflow. So yeah, that's really simple. You have no lights, no empty meshes and stuff there. So it's really simple to clean up things out. So that's it for this little small cleanup kit. I hope to add more stuff on this, so some kind of a presets system, and this way makes you the work more faster when you get some files from 3ds Max. So the goal actually is to load, so import files from an FBX folder that comes from different softwares, for instance 3ds Max, and clean them up with some command settings and automatically save those as an LXO file or LXL file after on. This is currently in development, but this is one presentation that I wanted to show you.